I've been designing. The first one being the Ernswell Sanctuary, which is my Telvanni Dinia's home. First thing let me quickly get rid of this hat. First thing you'll notice is the portal. This came with the Cold Harbor furnishing pack. It was worth it just to get this portal. And the way it is the only way to get into her house is this special portal which you enter through. And I have it designed so that as soon as you enter the house, you come right where this portal is. I tried to get rid of most of the stuff that was Dark Brotherhood related. The tapestries, the banners, all that kind of stuff. I kept the rugs because they don't really look Dark Brotherhood-esque. I keep all the tapestries at my closet. Dinya has come to the Gold Leaf acquisition. She's been branching out her horizons, mostly in alchemy. So she's been studying plants, how to increase their ingredients to help with first aid and all that stuff. And another thing she's been doing is she's been working on growing large mushrooms and healing them in an effort to repair her tower. So as you can see, she's grown some large mushrooms here. But she's also been practicing, her gardening skills have improved beyond just the ground. She's also been trying to do some aquatic plant life. Over here is her freshwater plants. So you can see she's grown some over here. And on the left-hand side is the oceanic side. And I know it doesn't make any sense to have one side saltwater and one side freshwater. But I don't know. I thought it looked neat. There's a little crab over there with a clam. Have a couple clams over here. I actually made it so that you can access that mushroom up there just by doing a little bit of parkour. And you're up. Sea slowed head. That looked neat. To the left is where Adinia's bath is, as well as a shrine to her family. Her family researched Aedra in order to learn how to control, destroy, or protect people from them. So she created this room mostly as a tribute to everything they've accomplished. They have a bust of all these monsters that they fought, enemies they've conquered. And over here is a shrine to her family. The urns are of her mother and her father. And the right time of day, that stained glass window actually shines down and makes a pretty beautiful, what's the word I'm looking for? Gyroscope, I think they're called. But it makes this beautiful light pattern right over here where the shrine is. So this is where Dinia comes and pays tribute to her family. That's her mother's urn, and that's her father's urn. That step adder came with the Red Guard, furnishing plan that came with the regatta dummy and everything. I didn't really like the human on it, so I just phased it into the ground and hid the head to just show the step adder. I thought it looked neat. And over there is one of my Perrier statues. The clam never used to be there, but I went to Kevduit's house and he had this giant clam on his head, and I thought it was the funniest thing ever. So I had to borrow the idea. You also notice that this bridge, I used to have a plank of wood. I replaced it with the Grand Daedric table, which actually works pretty well. I had to do a lot of finessing to be a proper walkway from one end to the other. Some more busts and tributes of stuff she's collected from her tower, her home. And in the back is her shower. I'm still trying to find proper stones to try and hide those little juts to make it a little bit less, you know, try and help with the immersion. But I'm thinking maybe I'll just do is I'll just grab some of the stalactites that I moved around and just put them there. Help with the bathtub. And this way is her main living quarters. See, she has a library, and I tried to make an aquarium for her. It's pretty hard to make an aquarium. They don't have any moving fish, so I took like a bass and some trout and I put them in there to look like it's an aquarium. There's some moving elements, but you really have to use your imagination. Originally it was a design case with some trinkets inside it, but someone said that the skull made it look like there was bubbles in an aquarium, so I thought, let's try making an aquarium. As you can see, the storyline was that Dinya, she was really, really hurt by the father of her child, so she didn't really trust men, and as a result she kind of became, a real loner, so she started getting cats. It started with one cat, and then she found another, and then she found another, and now she has 7 cats in her house. She's in love with a Mer right now, a Mer by the name of Noble. Not Noble, that's the player's name, Zereth. And this is the first time she's actually ever been in love. I mean, she has children, so obviously she's, been with Mer, but she's never actually been in love. So this is a new experience for her. So who knows if she'll get more cats or not. But that's the aquarium. That's her library. As you can see, there's a kitten on one of the floating books. Over here is her kitchen. This is where she produces food and drink for her guests. I found that the bread, the pieces of bread you can find while looting look a lot like scones, so I decided to make tea and scones. Some beverages. And there's a teapot in case Serethi ever visits, because she knows that Serethi doesn't drink. Some fruit. This is her grill. Egg timer. Over in this area is where she sits down and eats with her roommate Cersei. Cersei is a Reach woman. When she first came to the Gold Leaves, Cersei did. She had a bit of a rough patch. Dinya saw a couple members being a little harsh to her, being a little bit cold to her, and it was something that Dinya experienced herself when she was with House Athios. She felt unwanted, unappreciated. Like, she wanted to belong, but she felt that everyone was, against her from the start. So she knew how Cersei felt from the beginning, and that's one of the reasons why she invited Cersei to come live with her. Well, one, Dinya was very lonely, and two, she thought that maybe if she showed kindness when she didn't receive any, it might, give Cersei another chance to see that, not everything has to be hard. And also, it's, Cersei was also really into alchemy, as Dinya was in researching, so it was nice to have a partner to study that with. Respond to sweet roll. This is Cersei's area of the bedroom. She's a little bit more primal. That's her alchemy lab. Over here is Dinya's bedroom area. You see that's a crib where her daughter Anna sleeps. Her bed with Lexi, her beloved Vardvark. Dinya really likes cats. And there was a storyline about a few months back where Dinya assisted the Goldies in a rescue mission, but they went to a plane of Cold Harbor, and while she was there, and this actually existed in the public dungeon in Cold Harbor, they have these little glowing frogs that hop around. So I know that Dinia snatched one and like in the hid in her pocket, and this is the frog that she snuck away from the plane of Cold Harbor. Over here is another area she researches. It's also some of her cats. Now we're going to my favorite part. This is where Dinia, does all of her work for alchemy. She saw these growing in the cavern, so she went out to explore and find ways of, growing her own cherry blossoms. She got the saplings and she got these enchanted lights to replicate sunlight, because she wanted to make sure that they grew up healthy. So by having these there, the trees got the proper amount of sunlight and, nutrients they needed to grow properly. She's also been experimenting with illusion, and that's why she has all these ghostly trees sprouting about. These are actually the Enchanted Forest books you can get from, I think it's the Main Adventurers achievement in Somerset. They're pretty expensive though. This was not a cheap furnishing to do with so many, but I feel it was worth it. So she has a couple of these illusion trees about. Map of Vardenfell, so she always remembers her home. It's another cherry blossom that she's currently growing. I like how it's a normal pink color when you use it, but I like how with that lighting it actually seems to illuminate. Gives it more of an enchanted look. Over here she has some of her more unique ingredients, the kind of like, the obscure mushrooms. And this was something I was really having fun with. I created a crystal garden for her. These are some combination of the Mephala crystals and some of the Vardenfell crystals you can get from the achievement vendors. I thought it'd be fun if, as a Telvanni, she had some, crystals growing in her garden. That's what this section is. But this is my favorite part. Right here is the butterfly pagoda. Since he is an alchemist and is learning, she basically went a bit overboard in wanting to grow a garden. She has a very expansive garden, and in doing so, she found out that a couple butterflies had made their way inside the cavern because they are attracted by all the flowers. And butterflies are actually really good for her garden because, they help, pollinate and distribute to help them keeping healthy. So Dinia had this little pagoda constructed to help, attract and keep the butterflies happy so they'd stay around her garden and keep it, alive. So I have actually a couple of different butterfly packs just floating around here. Inside the actual garden, in the Ernstbach Sanctuary, this area is usually extremely dark and it's pretty bare. It looks like just stone ground. So in order to make it look more alive, I used a bunch of Daedric braziers because Daedric braziers give off a ton of light for such a small amount. As you can see, without this lit here, you can see how dark this really was. By lighting it up and putting these braziers in here, it really brings it to life. It shows that a lot of color, a lot of vibrancy. And I try to collect at least one of every possible plant available in this game as to be a part of Dinia's garden to help it look really full and really full of life. It's one of the reasons why this, if you look here, the Earthspire Sanctuary is almost completely filled with furnishings. Normally it was at 700, but I took out some of the stalactites because they weren't really necessary for the immersion and I needed them to make room for more plants and other furnishings. You can see here, it's one of those little butterfly bush from my achievement vendors. I just tried to make this garden look like it was, of a large variety of different types of plants and it's one of my favorite parts of it. I love how alive and colorful it is. It's such a big difference to what it started out looking like. Over here, I thought this was a little dangerous and a little, lost, a bit of a, kind of a loss, because you could, basically, if you drop here, there's not that much you can do. In fact, at some points you can fall to your death. So I just took a bunch of boards and I extended it out to try and like give you another area of roleplay. This is supposed to be Dinia's social area, where she has people come out and they just sit and they talk, do a little bit of research. I actually put these here to try and prevent people from falling down to their deaths. I think the one person only succeeded in doing it, and that was by balancing himself on the edge of this bench, jumping on top of the hookah, and then somehow jumping over that. But you have to really try to do that. If you go down here, it gives access to a little bit of a swimming pool. You can either jump down, or you can take the little walkway down. And I put more grading here to prevent people from, if you go too far down, it's just an instant death. You can just take a step forward, you'll just collapse, because you're not supposed to go that far. So I did put this here just to prevent people from falling to their deaths. And you can go right back up by using this plank. This actually took a lot. It's actually putting this whole area of the planks together took a lot more time than I expected it to. And over here is the well where Dinia collects water to take care of her garden. So that's the Ernstweiler Sanctuary. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think, considering what it looked like in the beginning, I was able to transform into something that's really more of a lovely home. The other house I want to show off is the Cold Harbor Estate, which a few people may have seen already. It's my primary residence, which is my my forest. When I first saw the Cold Harbor Estate, and I saw it was just basically a big, flat expanse of land, I thought to myself, what could this be used for? I mean, for role players, you can't really go to Cold Harbor, and if you did, you just go to the actual zone. But, to do that, it's not something you should do on a regular basis. You don't just, go to Cold Harbor on a whim. So I thought I'd do something different with it. I saw the flat land, and I thought to myself, what could I turn this into that could be useful? There's no house, so there's a variety of opportunity to do something. And so I decided I was going to turn it into a forest. And as you can see, I maxed out on the furnishings. See, I used, there's about 30 boulders, 100 flowers, 46 giant trees, 81 saplings, 197 shrubs, 143 trees, 45 vines. I just basically, when I started out small, just with I got a couple of tree packs from the Crown store, because I thought that'd be easier. And then I just started, running around and just sporadically dropping a tree to try and make it look, random and where I placed them. And I try to use a variety because, if you go into a forest, trees don't always look the same. So at first I started putting down trees, and then I noticed how, the ground looks like stone, and I admit it's a little bit, immersive breaking, but I tried to fix that by, putting some vines down, putting a bunch of shrubs down, covering it in plants, just trying to cover a large amount of the ground with plants to try and make it look more like a forest. And I also took the opportunity to try and put down as many trees as I could. If you stand right in the center and you look around, I like to think that it does give you the feeling that you are in a very lush forest and not in Cold Harbor. I also did a bunch of tests where I had my character running through to make sure that there wasn't anything on the ground, like any of the ground plants that were, causing collision, making it making it hard for you to walk around. I'm actually quite happy with how it came out. Another thing I did was I got rid of most of the Cold Harbor rocks and replaced them with normal mossy rocks to help with the immersion of not being Cold Harbor. And if you go to the outside, I tried. There were a couple of giant trees I got, and I tried to keep the giant trees keep them on the outer perimeter to try and help, try and block off the site of Cold Harbor. Because if you go on the outside, you can sometimes see that stuff, and that's kind of immersion breaking. So I thought if I put a bunch of giant trees there, it would, block the view enough to help you, keep the feeling that you're inside this big, lush forest. I also try to keep it as generic as possible, so that if anybody wanted to use it for roleplay, it could be anywhere. It could be a forest in Rivenspire. It could be one of the thick woods in Riften. Could be one of the woods in High Rock. I just tried to make something very generic because that way, it wasn't so limited. It could be anybody could use it for anything. And that's one of the reasons why I made it my temporary primary residence, so that, even if I was offline or, I was doing something else and somebody needed a forest to roleplay in, they could always just report to my primary and use it. I know there's a forest coming out with the new Wolf Hunter pack, Hercine's Realm. I've been in there. It's pretty nice. I like the fact that, the ground there actually is, grass and earth and not stone. It's a little bit reddish because it is a hunting realm, but it's pretty cool. But I didn't know that was coming out, so when I made this, I was actually pretty happy, and I still am very happy with how this ended up turning out. So, anyway, this is my forest. And somewhere in here, I have a loon, but I hid it in a tree because I like the sound it made. It sounds like there's actually a loon nearby, but the animal itself is kind of like, you wouldn't expect to see that there. I don't know where the loon is. And this is my meme. A little area of the meme. A friend of mine told me 2005 called and they want their meme back. But anyway, those are my two houses I really wanted to show off. I hope you enjoyed them. Take care.